We all know that the right habits and mindsets can be transformational in how we live our lives. But among the sea of advice online, it can be challenging to know who to trust with these important life decisions. At The Standard, we answer those questions and introduce you to some of the most successful people in the world in their fields and the habits and the mindsets they've used to achieve their success. To learn more about our social platform, head on over to www.thestandardapp.com. And now, your host, myself, Chris Pallatroni. Welcome to another episode of The Standard. I am your host, Chris Pallatroni, and today we have a special guest, Cate Sanders. I have known Cate for a little under 2 years. She is both my wife and my personal trainer. And so in the last 2 years, I have spent hundreds of hours with Cate talking about everything from global news to habits and mindsets to the latest book or podcast that we're both reading or listening to. And this is somebody who is both a phenomenal human being. She is as beautiful on the outside as she is on the inside, and she is incredibly smart. She has been a personal trainer for 20 plus years. She is a mindset coach. I jokingly like to say she's like a therapist as well, because she is. And she knows a lot about how to take care of the mind and the body. Takes a little bit more of like a holistic approach, if you will, and just a great person to be around. In this particular episode, we cover a lot of ground. And so we talk about daily movement and intuition. We talk about a growth mindset. We talk about some of the people that inspire her. And we do talk about some of the things she's seen with coaching individuals, your circle of friends, the people you surround yourself by. There's a lot that we cover in this episode. And so I think you guys will see as you listen why I like her so much and why she is so good at what she does. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Cate Sanders. Well, super excited. You are next to my wife, Stephanie. I think I know more about you as a human being than any other guest that I've had on this. So I chose not to look at your sheet because I didn't want to spoil any of the things that you may say today. But maybe, Cate, I do an intro after the podcast for all of the listeners, but so they can hear it in your words. Maybe give a little bit of your background, because I mean, you've been at you've been at the human experience your whole life, clearly, but you've been at the personal trainer nutrition for quite some time. So I think it'd be helpful for people to have a little bit of context as to some of your expertise. So maybe you can indulge us with who you are and what you do for a living.
Okay, well, first, thank you for having me here, because I don't know if I deem myself such an important podcast guest yet,
No,
but I'm
stop
honored.
it.
And you and Stephanie are two of my favorite human beings. So it's really just like recording one of our really fun, intriguing conversations.
Totally.
So thanks for having me. I have been in the fitness industry for over half my life. I'm 40 years old, and I started as a trainer when I was 18 years old. So it very much is a part of who I am, and I've been in it for over half my life. It's been amazing to reflect on and realize that.
Yeah. And for all of you listening, when I first met Cate, so we met a little under 2 years ago. My wife started training with you, and then I sort of just drafted right behind her and started training with you as well. But I recognized you before because I used to go to 24-hour fitness and you were training at 24-hour. And those guys, and just keep in mind, like me and Cate are around the same age. So we're in our early 40s. And so when I was 18, I would play basketball at 24-hour fitness with my friends. And, there was this cute blonde trainer in there, and I always knew who she was, but we never talked or anything like that. And then, 20 years later, I hire a personal trainer, and it's Cate, and I'm like, I recognize you. You're the girl from 24-hour fitness. So such a small world living in Sonoma County.
It is such a small world. And I remember people from all the different phases of life too, and various gyms. And it's, I never forget a face. And it's fun because most personal trainers don't have this kind of longevity in their careers. You see a lot of turnover in the fitness industry because it's a really hard industry, and a lot of people move on. So it's amazing to run into people, throughout like the decades and be like, you're still doing this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still doing it. And love it more than ever. So it's really fun to reconnect. Or I have clients who maybe I trained 15 years ago and they reach back out to see if I'm still doing it, and I am. Or you trained a client for their wedding and now you're training them for their second baby, and it's fun.
Yeah. And there's so much to be said about this isn't a job for you. I mean, this is a way of life. And not only have you been at it for so long, but you walk the walk. You do all the things that you preach to other people. And clearly in our conversations, so just so you guys know, like I train with Cate 4 days a week, and we don't listen to any music. So we're, although there are moments of silence as I'm catching my breath, I mean, we cover so much ground. I'm giving her news tips and talking about cryptocurrency, but inevitably a lot of our conversations revolve around mental health and clearly wellness and habits. And I mean, this is just like the rhetoric. We're constantly talking and trying to figure out, why can't people stick to habits? And so there's just so much about like the wellness journey that's embodied in Cate. And so I wanted to sort of set that, because although we're going to stick to a little bit more like habits and mindsets in this one here, our conversations might deviate a little bit just because there's a lot under the umbrella of mental health and wellness. And so I guess for you, what I'm so curious is like, when did habits and mindsets become, I guess, when did you become aware of them? Like, has it always been just part of who you are? Or like, when did it really, like, you start picking up on the fact that like you essentially are your daily actions?
I think they've been a part of my life for a really long time, even before I really had clarity on them or had them defined or had them organized into a system. Because you can't have the success in even the business I'm in without having some pretty strong habits. First of all, it's kind of expected that if you're going to be in the fitness industry, that you have some semblance of shape. That takes some discipline. You're not just automatically in shape because you're a trainer. You're working all day, and then you have to have the discipline to still make your healthy food and to go out on that run, even if you've been on your feet for 14 hours training. So I think that I really had to carve out, because I started this job so young and I was really trying to prove myself as somebody in this business. I had to dial in those habits really, really quickly. And I had to believe in myself, because I was selling thousands of dollars of training packages to people 3 times my age. And I really had to believe that I had something worth sharing. And that meant living it, because it's really hard to coach something that you don't really believe and that you're not really encompassing, especially in this business. I don't know, maybe people can fake it easier than others. I just think it's a lot harder with what I do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, me and my wife have jokingly said, like, if you're going to hire a painter, they should have a nicely painted house. If you're going to hire a gardener, a nice garden. If you're going to hire a trainer, yeah, I think they should look the part. Otherwise, you sort of wonder, like, what exactly are you buying into here? Because you coach so many people and you have for so long. I don't always ask this question, but like what do you think when you're starting to coach somebody? Like, clearly it's not as simple as just show up to my gym and all your problems will be solved. Like, where do you think, from like a habit perspective, that people fall off? Like, what is it what's the missing ingredient other than just a little bit of time in the gym? Like, what is it?
Well, it's interesting because I've been doing a lot of reflecting on that, because I think my answer even 10 years ago would have been drastically different, and my answer 20 years ago. I think that that's changing with the time. So my current stand on what I'm seeing happening, why people fall off, is we live in an extremely overwhelming world. I mean, I'm extremely overwhelmed by it. Clients are extremely overwhelmed by it. We have more information at our fingertips, and we have so much controversy over what is right and what is wrong. And so I'm seeing a lot of people, with the ability to get the knowledge themselves, and with even, some good habits in place. Majority of people exercise at least somewhat at this point. Rarely do I get somebody who's never exercised before. A lot of people are coming to me after not having had success with some other fitness endeavor. I think that narrowing down a personalized plan is what's hardest for most people right now. They're kind of ping ponging. One minute they're, doing this app, and the next minute they're going to this boot camp, and then the next minute they're, trying to be a, marathon runner, and they're burning out because then they still have to be a mom. And oh my gosh, I don't know, should I be on keto diet? Should I be vegan? Should I juice? Should I, and I think that majority of people right now are just so overwhelmed and don't know what to trust, and they're not trusting themselves in turn. They're
So it's
giving
like
that.
the lack of trust. They just give up on like, they're just like, it's too much. Like, or,
Yeah, but I don't think it's with lack of desire, and I don't think it's laziness. I think I've really grown to just be more and more compassionate with people. I think that life can be overwhelming when you're fully adulting, like a lot of us are, and there is so much information out there, so much,
yeah.
and they all conflict with each other. And I think that we've put a little bit too much power in others giving us that advice versus going inward. So my goal is to help people re-get to know themselves, to strip back the layers, to evaluate their history, whether it's with their nutrition choices or their fitness choices, and to figure out, to dissect that, but also figure out what's going to work for them now. Where are you at now? And what habits do you need to implement to get you where you want to be? So it's kind of figuring out like, where do you want to be? What's the end goal? And then working backwards to figure out what needs to happen daily so that you can be that person sooner than later.
Yeah. And I mean, you're a fitness coach, you're a nutritionist, you're a therapist. You are.
Not with the letters behind my name, but
No, totally. I think of like so many of the reasons why I trained with you. And I mean, I think I told you this when I first, hired you. Was like, one, I just didn't want to put any other thought into all the exercises and whatnot. Like I could learn it, but that's just, I'd rather go run, as you well know. And so like, I just didn't want to have to think about it. And then there's also an accountability component too. So I think, there's knowing that you may need an accountability partner is something that I think is very beneficial as well. I find
Mhm.
that helpful, right? Like I don't cancel any of my sessions. Like I know I'm coming in there. And so I think there's like all these different facets that can play into it for you specifically. And I know a lot of your stuff, but I don't know what you're going to say here. So what for you, what is like the habit that supports you the most at this stage of your life?
I knew you were going to ask this because I'm a big fan and I listen to all the podcasts, and I know that this is your big question here. And it's funny because what I'm going to say is so cliche to what a personal trainer would say. But I have really thought it over, and my answer is movement. Like,
Okay.
movement for me is the number one habit that helps so many parts of my life. And that movement can be that it could just mean waking up in the morning and just getting in my body first thing and going, how am I feeling today? Just moving around a little bit and doing a little body scan. Or maybe movement is end of the day. I've had a really hard day and I don't feel my best, and I need to take myself out on a walk and then come back to my family. Or, it's that I need to walk the walk and I need to have some semblance of fitness myself. And I set out this goal and I need to see it through. And just the ripple effect of that. I think exercise has turned into so much more for me, in regards to, just mood stabilization and just overall well-being. And I believe in it so much that that's why I still, after 22 years, feel so passionate about helping others with it. It's not just for the aesthetic or to be the, baddest person in the gym. It's really because I truly believe in its power to help all facets of your life.
So let's unpack that a little bit. Daily movement, obviously, you mentioned a bunch of different things. Like it doesn't have to be you working out in your gym. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a run. It can be a variety of different things. But you also said it could be first thing in the morning. It could be in the
Mhm.
afternoon. So like how structured is this daily movement? Like, can it just happen whenever it happens, or like walk me through like how do you get it in your day and make sure that it actually like takes part in your day?
Well, I like to do a combination of have intuitive movement all throughout the day. What does my body need that day? And to spend some time just being in that. But also with the structure of my mind isn't always going to want to do the plan. I might have scheduled a run today. Today was a perfect example. I'm up at our property. It's hot as hell up here. It's 90 degrees. And I
Oof.
chose to kind of play around on my phone this morning rather than get up and do an early run. So I had to go do a run when it was 90 degrees. I didn't want to. And I had this whole
Yeah.
dialogue going on in my head of, well, I don't know, maybe you can just go on a walk, or I don't know, maybe you'll go tonight. And I'm like, no, damn it, you chose to sit around. Now you're going to go out and you're going to do your run in 90-degree weather. So I do think it takes a combination of some structure, but also giving yourself grace and using intuition as to what can be the healthier choice. Because maybe I set out to do that run today, but my immune system's down. Well, the healthier choice would be that day to rest. But I think a lot of people have a hard time differentiating between the two of, I just don't feel like it, or no, it is
Yeah.
the healthier choice for me to do this or not do this. And I think that I know myself very well at this point, especially with mental resilience and physical resilience. I'm pretty good at differentiating the two. And that's what I try to do with others. And I always tell clients, just show up. I know whatever space you're in. I mean, obviously you're like vomiting because you have the stomach flu, stay home. But other than that, like come in, we will work around it. Or even if you
Yeah.
come in and you have a little injury and we spend the entire time stretching or talking through or coming up with a nutrition plan, I mean, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yoga days with you, right? It's
Yoga
like,
days, you don't get them very often.
I don't do them raw often, but I know when Steph's leaving, she's like, I just want to roll today. Well, let me ask you this. I'll play a little bit of a devil's advocate. Like, I know you start training so early in the morning. So you're up 4:30. Is that roughly the
Yep.
time?
Yeah, I get up, I
Okay.
set my alarm at 4 and I get out of bed at 4:15.
And then your first client, a lot of times is 5 o'clock or right around there, right?
5 or 6. So, but I try, even if I am not getting up for a 5 o'clock client, I still try to get up around the same time.
So does daily movement earlier in the day have a different impact on you than daily movement in the afternoon? Like you're saying, like as long as you get the daily movement, like that's the win. But I'm just curious, like, do you find that there is a more profound effect if it's earlier in the day versus later in the day, or does it just not matter at this point?
I think it's really personal. I think different people have different circadian rhythms. And for me, I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to wake up and just take care of myself first thing to go work out. But the reality is, for my life with a family, my most productive time for working is first thing in the morning. I can
Yeah.
hammer out 3 clients before I get my kids to school, and then have the rest of my, 5 clients and then some business work, and then be a present mom when my kids are out of school. So I choose to kind of be a little more practical. I guess that's a way that I'm a little more structured and less intuitive, but it works for my family and it works for my lifestyle and the type of clientele I have right now. I have some really hardworking clients who need to hammer out their sessions early, or it's the only way they can get on my schedule because I have a full schedule. So my exercise, kind of my personal exercise, more so fits in the holes in my day that doesn't interfere with other parts of my day, but it will get in there. I'm lucky that I have flexibility and I have random times, but that also means that sometimes the day got filled up and I'm doing a workout at 7 o'clock at nighttime, and that's not when I'm my best. So it's hit or miss, but it still gets in. I have kind of a little mental checklist of what I want to get done in a week, and it has to get done. And maybe I didn't feel like running on this Wednesday, and that's okay. I did a strength training instead, and then I have to make up for that run tomorrow. Like it gets done, but with
Yeah.
flexibility and grace.
Go back to the intuition part. And I think you even acknowledge the fact that a lot of people struggle with the, well, am I injured or am I just under the weather today or am I weak in the mind? I struggle with it from time to time. And I think it's honest, but for people that are not as in tune with their body, yeah, I mean, how do you personally navigate that? Like, how do you know intuitively that today you need to lean into, I don't know, instead of the run, you need to stretch, or shit, instead of doing anything, you need to take the day off? Like, how is that just trial and error over the years? Or like, how do you know what the right decision is, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I call it intuitive because that's what it feels like to me. But I guess it's more so that, because of my experience in training thousands of people and being in my own body and trying lots of endeavors, it just becomes pattern recognition, of sometimes you have more in the tank, but than other days, but at least go out and try. So even if I'm having a hard time, with a run, I still go out and do the miles, but maybe it's a run walk. And that's good enough for that day. So there can be some compromise, but I think that you still have to try. And even if you're not feeling well, I mean, there's such a difference from being super ill or having maybe you're in the throes of having some major hormonal issues or what have you. That
Yeah.
definitely there is a time to rest. But besides that, the movement is going to be good no matter what. And you have to focus on your why. And for me, my why with movement is my mental wellness. So getting out and doing something is always going to be better for me than not doing something. And it's choosing your heart. It's not always easy. I don't always wake up and go, oh my God, I can't wait to work, or I can't wait to work out. But you get going in the day, and then you remember why and the benefits, and your day becomes better, and it just reinforces that habit.
Yeah, I think there's so many misconceptions with people that are in shape as to like, well, she always wants to work out or he always wants to run. I mean, I've talked to a number of fitness people even on this, and it's like, no, we don't. Like it's, unfortunately, we are emotional before we are logical, and we're just not going to want to do a lot of those things in the moment. And I think that's okay. And I do agree with you. Master the art of showing up. That's a James Clear quote right there. And yeah, I think more often than not, it's probably more mental, although there are going to be times where, yes, you probably do need to shift your focus or maybe take it easy. But I think people over index on how they're feeling. And yeah, I think you just gotta get into the motion there to almost want to do it. What happens if somehow you don't get your daily movement in? Like, what happens if you not you've made the intentional decision to not do it, but let's just say it doesn't get done? Like, how does that impact you if the daily movement doesn't come into play? Maybe you're on vacation, maybe you're traveling, maybe your life was really busy that day. I don't know, maybe one of your kids threw you a curveball, but let's just say your daily movement does not happen and you wanted it to. What impact does that have on you personally?
Well, so again, my goal with it is to better enhance my overall well-being. So holding on to, thoughts of, negative thoughts of what didn't work isn't going to help me move forward healthily. So you let it go. There's plenty of days where you just have to let it go, and something else needed to be more of a priority, and that's the healthier choice. Sitting and harboring with, well, I didn't do that, and the guilt and the shame, I don't think that's productive. I think you go, today didn't work out and tomorrow's a new day, and have a plan of how that next day is going to be better, and you just move forward. It's easy for me to say that, though. I've gone through so many reps of this, and I've been an athlete for a lot of my life, so I've kind of worked through a lot of that mental struggle more so than other people. I'm pretty good about being like, today sucked. Some unexpected things happened, and I had to do this, and I didn't get to take care of myself. And tomorrow, here's how I'm going to make up for it. And a lot of more people get stuck in that struggle of the shame cycle and kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy of, see, I never stick with anything. I let that go. It's not helpful.
So how long does that cloud hang around? Like, you literally can just dust it off? Like, and I know we're talking about daily movement, but let's just broaden that to, I don't know, you overindulge on some meal that doesn't fit your lifestyle or whatever. Like, are you saying that like those shameful, judgmental thoughts are like only there for a moment and then they're gone, like a cloud going in
Oh,
the sky?
well, some days are going to be darker than others. I mean, of course, you're going to have those
Okay.
days where you're like, I'm just going to choose to be in a bad mood and just think about how much things suck. And I mean, those days are going to happen.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm pretty good about switching my inner narrative. I have to. I mean, whose life is easy? Mine's not.
Yeah.
Is yours? I don't think anybody's is. So if you don't learn to roll with the punches, especially with your fitness and nutrition, it's looking at the long game. I guess I'm really playing the long game. And if I get so caught up on those little short game things that, need tweaking or aren't working out, like, it's going to be a really rough journey. Just reassess what's not working, reset, and move forward.
Yeah, me and Steph, we didn't tell you, but we just started watching Ted Lasso. I know it's been out for a while. We just don't watch a lot of TV, but we binged and we watched like all 3 seasons, like pretty much within like 2 weeks.
Does that make
I
you
think.
so uncomfortable? I know you so well that I'm like, you
Oh my God.
are sitting here
Yeah.
feeling ashamed about it, aren't you?
Well, the only silver lining of that is this past weekend, or maybe it was the weekend before, it was like 100 degrees out. Like, there wasn't much that was going to go down on those days anyways. But yeah, I mean, we were watching it for like 5 hours a day, and great show. If you haven't watched Ted Lasso, thumbs up. You should go watch it. I think it's like the second series we've ever watched in our lives. But yeah, we crushed it in a couple of weekends. But he did say one thing, because he's coaching a professional soccer team, and he's like, think like a goldfish. A goldfish's memory is so short. So anytime somebody would have like some mental hiccup and then get caught up, and he'd be like, just think like a goldfish, think like a goldfish, just let it go. So as you were saying that you're not hanging on to those thoughts, it made me think of Ted Lasso, just because we indulged on it. And yeah, it was a little uncomfortable. Steph's actually watching it for a second time right now. And I'm like, we just finished it like a day ago. And she's already rolling into the second go of the season. So,
But for you guys, that is a healthy choice. In knowing you, not to, psychoanalyze you and stuff, you guys are so hardworking and driven and so focused that sometimes you don't stop to smell the roses and watch Ted Lasso. For you, that's a healthy choice. And I don't want to fool anybody either. I work hard. I play really hard. Play for me is fitness. I also rest hard. I'm a binge reader. I love fiction. Yesterday, I think I read a book for 8 hours. Like, I wasn't out running in the mountains. I was reading a book. Like, I still did work out, but my workout was 1 hour of the day and I read for 8 hours. Like, there's balance to be had too. And I don't want to make it sound that I think that we do live in a little bit of hustle culture and that can become unhealthy as well. So work hard, play hard, but also rest hard. Watch some Ted Lasso.
We totally live in a hustle culture. I actually read this article the other day, and it was talking about Americans that moved overseas and are experiencing what vacation looks like in other countries. And really the point of the article was that when they lived in the US and had a job within the United States, it would take like 10, 15 days off a year, somewhere in there. And then they'd move overseas and they would take like 30 to 45, 50 days off a year. And it's just because the expectations are so different over there as to like, I don't want to say like this is overgeneralization, but like, yes, go live your life. It's a 4-day work week. It's, more time off with your family. And they're just shocked that that was the mentality of other countries, which, so yeah, if you want more time off, go live overseas.
Yeah, I have, as you know, I have family who is moving and gaining citizenship in other countries. And they also say, even Americans, travel obviously, but when they're there, they're not really enjoying it. They're like, okay, now we got to go here. And then we're going to this city and then we're going to that museum. And they're like, and, Europeans are so thrown off. They're like, whoa, like just enjoy, like stop and enjoy your meal. I mean, dinner should be like 3 hours, not like a half hour. Can we get the check? We got a tour here to go get to. And it's pretty interesting to watch. And I can certainly get sucked into that too. But again, it's like kind of coming back to, the value system and, the mindset and the habits that, contribute to the life that you want to live. And that's for me, it's a daily reset. It's a daily, like, okay, what do I need to be doing today to get where I want to be in the long game?
Yeah. Well, let's flip over to mindset.
Okay.
Since you mentioned the word here, what is the mindset that supports your mental health and your success the most at this point? What would you say?
There's so many things that contribute to it. I feel like this could be like a 5-hour conversation, but I think continuing to maintain a growth mindset is really important to me. Continuing to be open-minded and to always be learning. I've learned that in my business, especially. I've been doing this for so long. It would be inappropriate for me to train in the exact same way I learned when I was 18 years old, or to just be applying the science that was out 10 years ago. And I think that same principle applies to life. I think you should always be evolving and be open, and really make sure you're watching your environment and who you choose to surround yourself by and be influenced by. And I'm so careful with my, maintaining that growth mindset and keeping that sacred, that even I'm really picky about what clients I choose to work with and who I choose to surround myself by. And so that I can, not only serve others with what knowledge I have now, but to continue to grow and continue to be better in the way that I can help the world and my family and myself. So does that make sense? That was a little bit of a ramble.
No, it does. I want to hone in a little bit on just who you surround yourself. I'm a big advocate. I always sort of put your social circle or, your family or friends. I always think of it as like environment. An environment is so critical because, just like a seed, if you're, a nature lover or a horticulturalist, all the ingredients to flourish are within that seed, but it is all dependent upon the environment in which the seed is. And I think humans are in a very similar fashion. We all have so much potential, but that potential does get stifled, if you will, if it's not surrounded by the right environment. So talk to me a little bit about, I know a little bit about your social circle. I think we're very similar in that regard, or our anti-social circle. You probably have a better social circle than me. I got like one friend.
Not much. You're it, Chris.
but talk to me, like, why is who you surround yourself with, be it Eli, or be it your kids, or be it your clients, or your friends, or Stephanie, like why is that so critical to a growth mindset?
Because I think that, well, one thing I've noticed about myself, just in self-reflection, I've seen a lot of different versions of myself, and I try to authentically be me always, but I've seen different versions of myself in the past, and some good, some not so great, and the difference in them is who I surrounded myself by, and that's not to knock, anyone that just doesn't serve me well anymore in this life, but really just protecting, where your energy goes and who it's going towards. And then, what little messages you're receiving from other people. Sometimes you don't realize, even if it's just little random sly passive aggressive comments from that friend, or, ways in which, partners support or don't support each other. Or so I think I'm really careful about that, because I'm a very sensitive person. I've learned that about myself. So I'm very sensitive to my environment, which is partly why I work for myself and I work by myself, because I really enjoy that. I really enjoy being a solopreneur. I do have other trainers that I work with too, and I love them, but I can be selective, and I can choose who I train as clients, and that it's that we're mutually benefiting from working together, and that I look at my schedule, my day's lineup, and I'm excited about the people I get to see that day and help that day. I don't look at it and go, oh my God, I got to train so-and-so at 10
She wouldn't
a.m.
say that. Like, I'm a client, everybody. She wouldn't be able to say that on the phone.
I'm really particular and careful about how I spend my day, all parts of it. And I'm fortunate that I get to do that. That wasn't always the case. When I was earlier in my career, you have to train. You had to, at the time, train in a gym to get experience, and to, even be around, a large number of people to build a clientele. And you take people at all hours of the day, and you're not picky about who you train. And I'm really lucky that I have gotten to this place in life to be able to do that. But also just who your personal relationships with are. I have the world's most amazing spouse. I mean, he is my best friend, and he very much contributes to my happiness and success in lots of other ways. And my children, and the very close, intimate circle of friends that I choose to be around.
How this particular mindset, how long would you say, like, have you always had a growth mindset? Maybe that's a better way of saying it. Like, have you struggled with this particular one, or has this been sort of like woven into your DNA for quite some time?
I think it's been woven into my DNA. I think that I've always been an observer, somebody who observed a lot around me. I had a lot to learn from lots of different experiences in life. And I think that I naturally have a pretty positive mindset. Not always. I have my shitty moments, but I think all in all, I have a pretty glass half full mentality. And I try to look at, even when there's negative experiences going on in life, like, what am I supposed to be learning from this? What can I take away from this? And always trying to move forward and better myself, and not just, place blame on other areas. And also too, I don't like being bored. Like, mundane life doesn't interest me. Simple life kind of doesn't interest me. I kind of choose complicated, which is why I choose the athletic endeavors I do. I like pushing myself and learning, where my edge is, and pushing past that, and then building a new edge. It's fun for me. And maybe that wouldn't be the case for everybody, but I think that's been ingrained in me for a long time.
Obviously, growth mindset is so important for personal development, for learning. I mean, it just has such ripple effect through our lives. Clearly, not everybody embraces that. And, with no names being mentioned here, but you've most likely had clients that don't take on that optimistic growth mindset, and that can be very limiting in their development, both from a fitness perspective and just achieving whatever goals that they're trying to achieve. When you encounter somebody that has some mental limitation into the way that they're thinking, once again, it can be very specific to fitness or nutrition, or it could also be a little bit more broad. Is there any tactical advice that you give them to try to break through that? Like, because obviously, like, they're going to be their own worst enemy in a lot of ways if that continues. So is there anything you've learned over the years to like help, I guess, break them free from that?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. Most important, it's to, and we all have stress, right? And we I think we all deal with being our own worst enemy. First of all, I'll just say this: I
Yeah.
certainly in my own, and am always working on it too. So I don't think any of us like magically figure out and just ride off into the sunset. I think it's constant work, but I think being able to honestly, identify your limiting factors, we all have them, and then come up with game plan to work around that, and come up with it, have a system in place so that when life happens, you don't just fall apart. And I think that that's, for all of life, really. I mean, because life has stressful, unexpected moments to everybody, but that doesn't mean that everything needs to just go by the wayside in regards to your health. So it's coming up and getting systems in place that people believe in and that are realistic for their life, to where they can still succeed and move forward and let the crappy days go and begin again on the next day, and to better play the long game, like I said, than to throw all their energy into this, program, and then they burn out and see I can't do it, and it becomes this whole vicious cycle of, the shame spiral and defeat and start again. So
Is this like an implementation intention? Like, when this happens, I will then do that. Is that like sort of how you're like thinking of it? Like,
I think yeah, or more so just people being honest with themselves. I mean, really stripping down to, a lot of people have their reasons for these limiting factors, like I like to call them. But then we have to just get really real with it and find ways around that obstacle. Like, I am somebody, I don't diet. I love food. So, and I'm not going to be somebody who restricts my calories or, eliminates big food groups. So for me, I choose to do extra cardio so I can still eat the pizza. And, it's just coming up
yeah.
with realistic tools for that person, not a diet book made for the masses, or not a fitness program made for the masses, but really figuring out what is going to work for that individual person, and having them learn to believe in their ability to figure that out for themselves too. I'm super happy to be, a helpful tool for people, but my goal is not to create codependency in that regard. My goal is to help them believe in themselves and to come up with systems that work for their life. And that takes just a lot of digging. It's a lot of peeling back the layers. It's a lot of going through the history of how they got to this place, and really the mindset piece is the biggest part.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, so it sounds like if that's somebody that has that limiting mindset, that's essentially unraveled in a number of sessions with you to try to, like, as you said, peel back the layers.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something you're going to come to some conclusion with in like one grouping, or even they'll come to the conclusion with. Like, it just takes a little bit of time to like work it out, it sounds like.
Yeah, and that's their journey too. And I respect that.
Yeah.
Again, I think I actually grow more and more compassionate as time goes by. And I'll speak with other trainers, or, hear people in the fitness industry talk, and they get so frustrated. Why can't people get this? But for me, if a person is still showing up, they're still showing up to the training, and I'm able to plant some seeds, that I think are going to help them. I don't know when those seeds are going to blossom. I mean, I've had some people where it really clicks right away, and we feel proud and they move forward. I have some people where I'm like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm kind of banging my head into a wall, but I'm going to keep like trying to deliver this message to the person, and maybe one day it will
Yeah.
stick. And that one day it does. I mean, that one day it does, and all of a sudden they lose the weight, or they run that 10K, or they, get their eating under control, and it makes it all worth it. But had I been impatient, they're like, why can't you just figure it out? We've been training for 4 months. Like, that doesn't work. And that just reinforces that negative self-narrative that they already have going on.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So in the podcast that's going to come out next week here. So we're on the 5th of July here. So this one actually won't come out for about 3 weeks, but I had Maria Moda on, and she's always lived the life of fitness. Like if you just saw her, she's incredibly good shape. I mean, she's just a physical specimen, if you will. And then I had this gentleman, Eric Champ from Champ City. He's out of Austin, and his fitness journey started at like 37. Like it wasn't, I mean, Maria started at like 16, if not earlier, and she's always been fit her whole life. And Eric, who's in incredibly great shape, his started at 36 when he put on a pair of pants and the number kept getting bigger and bigger. And it was just one day he made that flip. And I think it was around 36, 37. I think he's just in his early 40s. And now you look at the guy and you would just think he's just always been fit. And so it's always so interesting to like see the dichotomy as to like when somebody chooses to like really start to take care of themselves and like what's the catalyst for that. Some people just sort of always have it, and others need a little bit of a nudge from something in life, but it's just so interesting. So just very, very different personalities.
Yeah, different. And also, too, transformation, you can't always see to the eye. I mean, I've had clients who have
Yeah,
lost hundreds of pounds. And so clearly they're going to have this insane visual of a before and after. Or I have that client who in their 50s decided they wanted to do a triathlon for the first time, and I helped them accomplish that. Like those are obvious,
yeah,
huge wins to, the public's eye. The ones that a lot of people don't see that I get to is the girl who was suffering with major depression to the point where she was
hmm,
institutionalized for, potential suicide, and overcomes that and finds strength and resilience through strength training, and is now living an
yeah,
incredibly happy and beautiful life. That's not something that you would see in a picture. That's something that happened on the inside. So also just keeping in mind that health and fitness looks different on different people. I have plenty of people who come in and they're like, I'm just happy that I show up here 2 days a week. That's the best I'm going to do, and I'm okay with it.
totally.
And then I have people like you who are like,
Yeah.
okay, Cate, so by this time, when am I going to see this? And what do you
Oh.
think about like you want the site? And I love that too. That's super fun for me. But it's respecting that we're all different and that we're going to change through different phases of our life. I've been a really intense athlete in different phases of my life. And right now I'm in a gentler phase for myself personally. And I'm okay with that too. So,
Yeah, it is really interesting with the physical transformation, because I think everybody is so inspired when they see this metamorphosis of like, you look like that and now you look like this. But what I found so interesting, and I couldn't tell you what percentage, although I would bet it's a very high percentage, anybody that is made a transformation, whether it's dramatic or not, most people that I interact with will say the mental transformation is more profound than the physical one.
mhm.
And if you haven't ever had a transformation, that might be like, well, what do you mean? How'd you lose like 200 pounds? Like clearly you've, but everybody, whether it's a big physical or a small physical, like the mental transformation is so profound. And yet you don't get to see that a lot unless you're in the inner circle, and then you get to see how they think about life and whatnot. And so I'm always really big on the mental stuff, but it is very hard to sort of capture the significance of a mental transformation from afar. It's really easy to do it when you're part of their circle, but if you're not part of someone's inner circle, you really just see the physical.
I think it's really important for all of us to remember. I try to really maintain, integrity with that as a health professional and somebody who is
Yeah,
influencing others, that it's really personal to the person. And there's no one standard of what a body is supposed to look like or what health is supposed to look like. I know that in looking back at times where people would probably have seen me or seen a picture of me, been like, oh my God, you are so fit. You're in such good shape. I could tell you that was a time in my life where my life was falling apart behind the scenes and I
yeah,
was mentally not well. And so looks can be deceiving, and just really, figuring out again for that person or yourself, just what what is most important, what are your value systems to be that person you want to be and work backwards. If it's to be aesthetically perfect and that's in there, great. Then your training program needs to be appropriate to that. But if it's that
yeah.
I just want to be able to run around with my grandkids someday and not have to have a hip replacement, and I want to have energy, and their program's going to look different. Um, so it's fun. That's I think the best part of my job is that it is personal, and you get to discover what the program needs to look like for that individual person.
Yeah, well said. Are there any habits or mindsets that I'll call like under construction, either bad ones you're trying to break or good ones you're trying to build? But are there any that you would sort of say are under construction at the moment for you?
Definitely. I would say currently my entrepreneurial mindset is under construction right now. I've been in this game for a long time and but the industry is changing and I want my part in it to be changing. So I mean, I could train people for forever. I'm trying to find a way to kind of grow into more of the business end of fitness so that I can help more than just the, 15 or 16 people that I can train at a time. So that's interesting for me because I've always had a very like intimate business and I build really close relationships with my clients and now I'm dealing with, putting myself out there on social media, dealing with my own body insecurities and I'm in my 40s now. What does that look like for someone like me? And so that's a really interesting kind of newer thing to be working through. You and I talk a lot about it.
I know, because we're both big social media people. So
Ah, big.
we get Steph to come in and hold a master class for us or something like that.
I know. And then we have Steph. She's our little cheerleader, and she does it beautifully. But she had to work through her stuff and that too. So
I know.
it's figuring out, the best way to help others. I'm still in that research process, and I'm just trying a lot of things and seeing how it works, and trying to give myself grace while I figure it out, as the rest of the world is trying to figure it out as well.
All right, stay tuned, everybody. Cate has made a commitment to really beef up her social media game over the next couple months. So more to come.
Thank you, accountability buddy. Thank you.
You heard it first on this podcast. Are there last couple questions I got for you? Are there any? Is there anybody that inspires you to the point where you would want to see their personal habits or their personal mindset? So someone either you know personally or just somebody you know of. But is there anybody that sort of stands out to you that if you could get a peek behind the curtain, you would want to?
This was on my little podcast sheet, and I think it's the thing I like filled out the most because I was all over the place with it. There are obvious, like, notable celebrity type people that inspire me and I either listen to their podcasts or they read their books and that's all great, but I think for me what has the greatest impact are the people that I get to meet in real life who are doing inspiring amazing things, and maybe they don't have 200,000 followers or they're not getting these crazy book deals or documentaries, but I think that they're just as impressive if not more so because I get to actually see them as humans in their real life. I recently had a longtime client of mine pass away, Al Magini. You heard me talk
Yep.
about him. He lived to be 107 years old, and he was a client of mine. I started training him when he was 89. Very philanthropic man, very successful
Yeah.
businessman, very successful in life and friendships and relationships. And I got to really firsthand study him and have beautiful conversations with him. And so to answer your questions, it's people like that. It's people like
Yeah.
you. It's people that I get to spend real intimate time with and see how they are truly living their life, not just the ones who are making cool TikToks and things. That I find for me personally has more of an impact. So real life connection, which is funny because as you know, I'm a hermit and very antisocial.
Yeah. Totally.
But I also super believe in connection and community and learning directly from people in real life. So I'm kind of contradicting myself there, and I'm inspired by the people in my inner circle who I learn and grow from every day. My partner, my children. It's beautiful. I think I gain more inspiration from that than from the outer world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. All right. Last question I got for you. So this is big picture. I'm always trying to talk about, how do we help people on a very large level? How do we take, nudge humanity in a more loving and kind direction would be my aspiration for the world. So, and all that you know about habits and mindsets and nutrition and fitness, like if you could wave a wand and just distill down, I don't know, some habit or mindset and all of humanity got it to nudge us in a more loving and kind direction, what would that habit or what would that mindset be that we all should be embracing?
I'm really clear on that. I have thought about this a lot. I truly feel that the world would be such a better place if we all just took care of our inner circle. So if every person on this planet took care of their inner circle, the ripple effect of that would be so huge. So rather than looking on some large global scale of, can I send money to another country or this war here or that? I'm not saying don't care about that, but if you can have a
Yeah.
direct impact in your existing life with your inner circle, and each person in your inner circle then did that for their inner circle, the ripple
Yep.
effect of that would be worldwide. But I don't think you can do that if you're not your better version of yourself. If you are suffering
Yeah.
in an inner turmoil, you're not going to show up in your own life and be able to give to others. I've had that experience too. When I've dealt with some major things in life, I didn't have the ability to serve others and show up in my other relationships in good ways. So the more I fill my own cup, the better I can go and fill the cup of the important people in my life. And then they can hopefully then go out in the world and do that. And I truly think that if we just put our focus there, not overstimulated on all the problems around us or what's happening in the White House or that drama on that reality show, if we all just focused in on ourselves and our inner circle, magic would happen.
Well said. I think that's a perfect place to end because I couldn't agree more with you. Where can people go to learn more about you, Cate? Where's the right place?
Well, I am so involved on Instagram, or going to
You
be
are. I
more
got your
so.
page up right now.
My Instagram handle is at Cate Sanders Health. My website is catesandershealth.com, and I have some things coming down the pipeline with some greater branding. I've got an app coming out in the fall, so more to come. But for now, good old Instagram.
Yay. And everybody, you should follow her. She's got a great newsletter out. She's got nutritional guides out
They're
there.
so nice.
And for those of you in Sonoma County, you should definitely consider hiring her. I've been training with her for 2 years, and yeah, it makes a big difference. So Cate, you've been wonderful.
Thanks, Chris. This was fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yay. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Standard. Before we go, click on the link in the show notes of this episode to learn more about today's guest. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with somebody who you think would benefit from it as well.